"You're stepping on your father," my mother said. And indeed, I was standing exactly in the center of a bed of grass, mown so neatly it could have been my father's grave, although there was no stone saying so. "You're stepping on your father," she repeated, louder this time, which began to be strange to me, since she was dead herself. Even the doctor admitted it. I moved slightly to the side, to where my father ended and my mother began. The cemetery was silent. The wind blew through the trees. I could hear, faintly, the sound of weeping several rows away, and beyond that, a dog wailing. At length, these sounds abated. It crossed my mind. I had no memory of being driven here, to what now seemed a cemetery. Through it, it could have been a cemetery in my own mind only. Perhaps it was a park, or if not a park, a garden, or bower perfumed. I now realized, with the scent of roses, douceur de vivre flowing through the air, as the sweetness of living, as the saying goes, at some point. It occurred to me I was alone. Where did the others go? My cousin's sister, Caitlin and Abigail. By now, the light was fading. Where was the car waiting to take us home? I then began seeking for an alternative. I felt the impatience growing in me, approaching, I would say, anxiety. Finally, in the distance, I made out a small train. Stopped, it seemed. Beyond some foliage, the conductor lingering against the door frame, smoking a cigarette. "Don't forget me," I cried, running now over many plots, many mothers and fathers. "Do not forget me," I cried. At last, when I reached him, "Madam," he said, pointing to the track, "surely you realize this is the end. Tracks should not go further." His words were harsh, and yet his eyes were kind. This encouraged me to press my case harder. "But they go back," I said, and I remarked their sturdiness as though they had many such returns ahead of them. "You know," he said, "our work is difficult. We confront much sorrow and disappointment." He gazed at me with increasing frankness. "I was like you once," he added, "in love with turbulence." Now I spoke to as an old friend. "What of you?" I said. "Since he is free to leave, have you no wish to go home? See the city again?" "This is my home," he said. The city is where I disappear." The speaker of the poem is a little girl who died with her mother. This is apparent because in the poem it meant she's only surrounded by dead people. Her mother died, and she was visible, and the conductor cannot make it back to the city, so one can reasonably assume that he is some kind of spirit. From this deduction, we can assume that she is dead, because she makes no mention of her father dying. However, she mentions very explicitly that her mother did. The occasion is that she died recently, and she's with her mother, and she wants to go home where life is, even though she can't make it back. The audience, there is no audience from the speaker's perspective. The purpose, it is written to frame the author's opinion on death and mourning, and the subject is death. The tone, the speaker is fearful, confused, and lonely. Devices, she uses apostrophe when asking where the car is, and the irony of douceur de vivre, the sweetness of life, when surrounded by the dead. These all contribute to the author's meaning of the poem because it's a very solemn piece about the author's view on death, and she is describing it as something scary and undesirable, which is true about death.